43.
42. 41.
40.
39.
Number 1.
39.
38.
37.
36. 35.
34.
33. 32.
31.
30. 29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11. 10.
9. 8.
7. 6. 5.
4.
3.5.
3.
2.
1.
Hey, Rocky, you want to see me pull a show out of my hat? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty fresh take on politics. And as you saw at Lawfare, it seems to be a theme that we've had going on here at the Chateau de Mars Hill studio. And I welcome to the Mouthwash Show, a minty fresh take on politics. That's where we try to look at things from all different angles. Maybe some stuff that doesn't get covered, gets swept under the rug, that people never heard about. But tonight, this is one where I'm doing the investigation. I met these folks at the Micah Beckwith deal down there in Lake Cordery, and they came up to me after the show, and actually Kim Livorno, don't say her name wrong, she gets mad when you do that. So Livorno came up to me and said, I want you to talk to these folks. And I talked to them, and they told me their story, and I'm thinking, wow, this is my little Lawfare thing was nothing compared to this. And this is a story about Muncie. Muncie, Muncie politics, a lot of people know, has been a little interesting. I did go to Ball State from 82 to 86. And even back then, everybody knew that the Muncie politics was a little bit suspect. But this gentleman tonight, we're going to talk to him and his wife. And they went through quite the ordeal a few years back. And we're going to get into that story. And as I'm doing my investigation on this, I talk to people. I talk to people from the city. I have a call into the current police chief, but it didn't get done. And, hey, I'm a bricklayer during the day. And, I have a lot of stuff going on. I'm not full-time on this. I don't get paid to do it. We're just doing this to keep you informed on what's going on, give you an honest assessment. We don't have anybody pulling strings on us here. We don't have anybody telling us what to do because we can't lose our sponsor. We can't change our logo, and it wouldn't matter if we changed our logo or if we had something else on here or whatever. We don't have to answer to it. So we can go in, look at these things fairly, and we're trying to give you the right information, and then you can decide. You can decide what's up with that. I know we have all the panel back here. Actually, the panel was on. I have to commend them. They were on. Actually, a couple minutes before the show. Usually they pop on when I'm talking because really they don't want to hear me say anything. They want to hear me talk. They want to hear our guests. So we're going to get to this thing. And I think I'm going to do this first. I don't know if I can do the voiceover on it. So if you don't hear me, I'm just going to give you an idea of what happened to this guy, how it affected him, and what went on there. So here you go. From the time of Joe's arrest and sentence, he was 50 years old. He suffered a minor heart attack. His mother died, and our nephew, Noah Shenaviz, I don't know if you remember Noah, he was Elwood, was killed in a traffic stop. And while he was incarcerated, his dad died. So that seems like an awful lot. It seems like a lot of trauma. And when I talk to these folks, they still are. Now, all the time's been served. Everything's done. His mission right now is to clear his name after 20 years of service and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them on here real quick here, see what's up. Hey, folks, how's it going? I'm going to get Joe and Beth Kesjsa. Yeah, I've been practicing the name. It's Kesjsa. So how y'all doing tonight?
All right.
Good to talk to you.
So this is your first time actually, telling your story in a public atmosphere here. So I know you might be a little nervous, but don't worry, because the Mouthwash show, we're relaxed, and we'll get the panel on here. We'll ask some questions about what your situation is and all that. But just give us a real quick synopsis on, what the details are here, if you can.
So I was a Muncie police officer, started in 1993. So a little bit after your time at Ball State, but I went to Ball State from 88 to 92. And worked my way up through the ranks, was a sergeant, and ended up serving 26 years with the department. In 2020, I got indicted by the feds and ended up serving 11 months in federal prison.
Wow. And that was not really what you'd planned. And you'd never had any disciplinary actions before? No. It's clean record, clean slate, clean all that. Okay, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. But to me, and your case, as I did my research on it, your case was about officer cruelty. Not that that's what was it about? It was about, I can't think of the word that I want to say there.
So one of the people who worked for me was going around using excessive force, and
yeah,
that's
and
what
then,
it's all about.
But you had no abuse of people or anything like that. You were just the officer in charge. You were the supervisor, the sergeant. What would you be called then?
The sergeant. Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay. And then, so now you weren't doing the abuse. So how did you get nicked up in this thing? How did you get thrown into it?
So part of the sergeant's job is to review uses of force, and I, at the time, was fooled by other officers' reports about what had happened. Didn't really have time to look at the video adequately, and this went on for a few months. Eventually, I figured out what was going on, and myself and another sergeant ended up getting this individual off the street and started reporting things onwards and upwards through the chain of command. And then sometime later, the feds became involved, and they ended up locking me up. So.
Okay, so there was, how many officers were doing this abuse under your control?
One, maybe two, if you count like a single incident. So
okay, so just one guy basically doing this stuff. You sort of caught him, you reported it up, and then all of a sudden, you're in you're in prison. So what was your, they had a trial and everything, and so I guess why did not the judge believe you? Because it sounds like to me, your first time offense, you get 11 months for this thing. That doesn't seem like it doesn't fit.
So we never actually made it to trial. My intention was to go to trial and fight this, but ran out of money paying the lawyers, and was told over and over again by even our own lawyers, just take a plea deal, because it's, everyone's against the police these days, and you're going to get convicted and you're going to end up doing a lot more time. And eventually I was like, well, I want to see my grandchildren at some point. So I ended up taking a plea deal.
So basically,
a big factor in that decision is the judge prevented any kind of defense. So we would be facing going to trial, and basically it would be a one-sided trial. He was not allowed any expert witnesses, and it got worse from there.
The lawyers that I had, I thought we had put together a pretty credible defense, and we made it to the point of pre-trial where the judge would go through and look at everybody's case in advance. I'm used to Delaware County Circuit Courts where that kind of thing didn't happen, and she threw out expert witnesses that I was going to have come in, and she did not allow testimony from this witness and that witness, and the witnesses that I did have all got phone calls. I kind of sound like witness intimidation to me, but when you're not allowed to present a case, it's kind of difficult to defend yourself.
Yeah, and full disclosure, we have something in common. I had Judge Pratt for my when I ran for mayor, and she basically said, well, they did bad things and they were malice and all this, but you're still off the ballot. So and that brings me to the point. So Beth, you sent me a letter, to a bunch of stuff, and as I combed through this stuff, I was just like, I just was looking at this going, this just doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. No, there's a guy that's been on the force for all these years, no problems. You got accommodations for your service, and all of a sudden you're this awful guy that needs to go to jail for a year. To me, and like I said, we've been doing a series of lawfare. We've had different people on here, but I think this is the most egregious case of it right here. And you had 31 letters sent to this judge supporting your character. And I was reading, and one of them is from Salone, Chief Salone right now. That's the chief of police that I read that. And I was like, wow, that seems to be a pretty, it's a good recommendation for a lighter sentence. But what were you looking at when in the plea deal? Go through that real quick. What was the plea deal?
So initially when I was indicted, possibility was 30 years maximum.
30?
Yeah, 30. And they kept floating offers and floating offers and floating offers. And yeah, I think the final range somewhere was going to be between 3 years and 18 months. And I ended up with 19 months. So
19, and you got out with good behavior on 11 months. So this seems like they're looking for a scapegoat. Is that, am I getting close to the target here?
Kind of seems that way to us. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
so go ahead, Beth.
Yeah. So the very thing that they charged him with was also an action that was done by his superiors, and they faced no charges. They kind of got away with that, in addition to his subordinates all colluding on their reports and admitting that, and they never got charged.
I'm going to ask one more question. I want to get the panel on here. I see Brad's probably taking his Bud Light break early, because Brad will drink a couple Bud Lights, and when his camera goes off, we know where he went. So the police chief had a son, and the son was actually the person that did the abuse.
That's right.
So to me, and the chief at the time, he's no longer the chief. How come he didn't have any repercussion on this? I mean, wasn't he your boss?
Yeah, ultimately. Good question. And
did he not look over the report, or did he just
just put on blinders and whistle through the graveyard for as long as he possibly could? And since, in an effort to try and make my defense as cheap as possible, the lawyers that I had did not have an outside investigator come in, I ended up pouring through all the paperwork. This was during the COVID era, so had time. And it so appeared that the then police chief was pretty much teed up to be indicted, but they did not. Ended up coming after me instead.
So here in Indianapolis, they have the FOP, and they will foot your legal bills, I believe, if I'm correct. If you're in that, there's nothing like that for the Muncie Police Department. You had no relief from a fund?
There is, however, and a warning to any police officers who might be listening, I paid into the FOP Legal Defense Fund for, it's as soon as it came out, clear back in the 1990s, and paid into it and paid into it and paid into it. The problem is that my initial lawyer in this was paid probably less than a third of what the going scale for a federal defense attorney was, and she didn't put a heck of a lot of time into it. And then it was a matter of just, that was like a stipend towards it, and I ended up spending my retirement. So
yeah, and I guess at some point it's very expensive to deal with this, and then you're sort of in a catch-22, and what do you do? So you did what you had to do. So I think that was the court, the legal court, but now we're in the court of public opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the panel on here. I don't know if Brad's he's going to be a blank stage. Yeah, he's audio. Come on, Brad, let's go. Time to be on. So yeah, I just lost everybody almost there. I lost me. So
here.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wow, this is awesome.
You got your mouth open and you look like you're in deep thought.
Yeah, well, my mouth's always open, Tiffany. Let me see. Let me see what happened here on my camera.
Welcome to the high-tech mouthwash.
There we go. I think my yeah, no, yeah, we raise your hand if you're getting paid. This would be a good time to be talking about that. So Brad will come in here for a minute. Now we got everybody in the wrong spots too. So it's like, okay, now we're ready. So y'all were listening backstage, and this is the first time you've heard this story. Tiffany, I'm going to start with you. What are you taking away from this? Now Tiffany's Fisher's town council, so she's somebody.
I'm also a veteran too, and my heart breaks for you when you just said that you spent your retirement. That hurts my heart to know that your life savings, and we are the same age actually. So I can only imagine how it feels at 52 to be starting over.
It's well, it wasn't actually my retirement, but my inheritance from my parents. So yeah, it definitely had a huge financial impact on us, and big part of the decision to quit, because obviously my family needs a roof over their head and food on the table. So yeah, but thank you.
I think one of the things we need to point out too, because a lot of these things follow the it's zeitgeist. It's what the times are. So back then it was like defund the police. I mean, there was a lot of that. So in pretty much every one of our lawfare cases, it matches with what it was. Curtis Hill was the Me Too movement. Micah Beckwith is this AI thing. My thing was just running for office. Your thing was
caught up in that post George Floyd excessive force, down with the cops. Cops are bad. And so, and when you brought me on camera, John, I was reading online about your case. So forgive me of that. I was trying to understand what all was going on. And it seems like, so the person who was doing the excessive force, did they ever see any consequences for their actions?
Yes, he ended up pleading guilty, sentenced to 10 years. I believe he's in his third year of serving his sentence somewhere. So
which guy was that? Was that Winkle?
The police chief's son.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was a little guy too. He looked like a little guy.
Well, if it doesn't matter. Dynamite comes in small packages. So one of the things I did talk to somebody with the city. I'm not, hey, Brad, what's happening? You just get up there where you belong. Wait a second. You're on the right, Brad? We ain't having that. There you go. Now we're getting it right. So I did talk to somebody from the city. I love this person. I'm not going to say their name because they asked me not to. I sent a text message and this assistant got back with me right away. Somebody who's been in Muncie politics for a lot of years, knows Chase personally, knows the case personally, and thinks it stinks, and obviously if you just listen to what we did, and we're trying to give you, the what happened, and you can decide what's up here. And it's one of those things where everybody sort of knows what's going on. The biggest question I have is, if the buck stops with the chief, why didn't the chief get the buck? And, that's where I'm at. And it just looks like they wanted to pile all this on you, and it fits their narrative, and they don't care who it hurts. And, that's where we're at. So, Brad, are you caught up? Did you hear all? You're muted. You're muted, Brad. I could unmute you probably.
He was using his library.
I'm doing that.
I keep unmuting him and muting him. Okay, go ahead, Brad.
Library voice.
Now I forgot what I was going to say. So.
Okay. That's okay.
Well, no. So it was from the federal government, though, that
yes,
that this was all taking place, though, right? So, okay. And I think you sort of just got globbed in with everything, because I don't think that having the notation of it being a officer, what is that, where they beat the assailant,
police brutality,
excessive force. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
excessive force.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, but with excessive force, I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going now. I'm still trying to get unmuted here, I think. So
Yeah, that's all right. We'll come back to you. Wow, that's the first time. Tiffany, you're not going to jump on that with Brad and give him a hard time
Well, the best time to kick a man is when he's down, but I didn't want
when he's muted. Best time.
But Joe, as I understand this, and I am not a lawyer, so there was excessive violence, excessive force, and you pled guilty to falsifying documents, police reports.
Correct.
Can you explain that just a little bit?
So I had, part of my job is to review what the officers said about this, and they all said, yep, this is what happened, and it's justifiable because we had, suspect did A, so we had to do B, and so on and so forth. And I made the mistake of trusting my employees. I trusted my fellow police officers. And
I think it's also important to know in this that Joe routinely did the work of 4 people. He did not have the support that other shifts did. No one really wanted to work midnights, and they didn't have the numbers to staff it adequately and per contract. So it's also important to note that his lieutenant signed off on the same paperwork. The captain also signed off on the same paperwork. They didn't face charges. And the administration very much Band-Aid patched any assistance that he would get. They were pulled from other units, didn't understand the administrative side of what he was doing on the shift. And so I think we counted up, 62 tasks at any given time that he was responsible for. I don't know anybody who can do that.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of times people want to be Monday morning quarterback, and you should have done this. And there's a saying that, on average, every person breaks at least 3 laws every day. So what's that saying? If you got the man, you can do the crime, or what? Tiffany, do you know what I'm talking about? That find me a crime and I'll put it on the guy.
Racist? Hello?
No, I figured you'd know. Because
racist? Oh, hello.
All right, I'm asking Lucy.
Stalin's head of secret police. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime.
That's it. Yeah. See, Tiffany, he got it. I was trying to give you a softball and you call me racist things or whatever.
I'm in the suburbs. What do I know? I don't know.
Yeah, what do you know? It's coming your way, pal. It's like we're Indianapolis and the Muncie. That's all coming down to get you.
I tell you.
But
we need a fence. We need a fence around Fishers.
That's what this thing sort of says. You show me the crime, I'll give you the man, or whatever Joe said. But so as we were talking before, they did end up giving you your pension because your pension was at risk because of this crime. Is that because of this?
Whoa. So here's a question. So is it a mistake or was it a crime? Or was the mistake?
He pled guilty to a felony.
Yeah.
So it was
pled guilty to a felony. So it's definitely a crime.
Yeah, but basically the crime was your paperwork just didn't line up. Is that what I'm thinking here? Okay, so
correct.
So your friend Kim Livorno, she's texting me. So if you have a question, you can put it in the comments on here. But she says there's a note here. The fact that Kesjsa, the state didn't pick up your case. Why didn't the state pick this up, and why was it the feds? So, and she said, but the feds did. Why did they do it? I mean, is this back to
they offered him as tribute?
Good question. Why? Because my understanding was it got sent to the state police to begin with, and the state police punted on it, and then it went to the FBI. So, good question.
Yep. Well, and as I started the show, the Muncie corruption, and I think that there's been a lot of Democrats that have been found about their money, all the things that they've been doing. And from what I gather from who I talked to, that it seems like it's just average corruption now. It's not the over the top stuff on this. Do you think that was part of this? You just were wrapped up. It seems like this is very much a timing thing, and you got wrapped up sort of in with some other stuff that may or may not be corruption. But here you go. We're cleaning it up. This guy's got to go. But still, I'm still stuck on why did not the chief of police, why did the people above you not get in trouble for the same things that you did? I'm still going to have that question for a long time. So
this
Lucy,
was going on at the same time that the then mayor was investigated by the feds and ended up going to prison also for a while for corruption, and his bagmen and other officials basically soliciting donations and pocketing things and contracts with kickbacks and so on and so forth. And that was going on at the same exact time that this was going on. So yeah.
So they just cleaned house.
yeah. So Lucy, what are you hearing here? I know that you want to burn it all down, and this would be a good start.
Well, first of all, Joe and Beth, I want to express my utmost sympathy for getting caught up in the corruption of the system. And what I'm famous for here is for doing a little bit of lecturing, but I'm not trying to lecture at you. I'm just trying to provide some context to the situation that you're in. So feel free to pipe in and correct me. While you were talking and sharing your story, I went and read at justice.gov and tried to find a couple of outside sources that would talk about, your particular situation. One of the things that I want to commend you for is for doing the right thing for your family. It must have been so incredibly difficult to plead guilty to something which, based on the evidence that I've seen, I don't think you're guilty of. And so to make that trade-off, I completely understand, because what you were facing was up to 20 years. So to be able to get out with 11 months, I would have taken that deal all day long. Like you said, get in, get out, and worry about clearing your name later. What is so bad about this to me is you seem like the sort of person that genuinely got into law enforcement in order to help people and to support people. And then you have somebody like, Chase Winkle, son of the chief, and he was clearly just a psychopathic bully. When I read about the other things that he was accused of and the other things that he pled guilty to and the other incidents, none of which you were directly involved in. I mean, the only thing that you had coming to you, is, as far as I could see from what I've read on justice.gov, is, the paperwork. You were the first piece of management paperwork. And so they shoved all of the guilt and the shame and the public outcry, just like Tiffany said, you were offered as tribute. So just from my analysis as a libertarian and being frustrated with, Democrats and Republicans and the people that are in power, I have just got to imagine, knowing what I know about the lifestyle that the dirty police have. And I won't go into that because I don't want to libel and slander good folks, but the amount of corruption and blackmail that they must have had on so many people, probably including the judge, the judge's family. I can only imagine that all these backroom deals were made, and it came down to, let's just send Joe. We'll just send Joe. And if he's smart, he'll take our deal. And if not, we'll get him for 20 years. So I'm so
or
sorry
bankrupt him and then get him for 20 years. So I don't think that's a fine how do you do after your service. And from what I gathered, he's got accommodations. He was a guy, when I read that first thing, I want to pull that up again real quick and play and show that, because, this just sort of shows this just shows what happened during this time period. Joe's dad died when he was in jail. Now, I lost my dad. What's today?
August 26th.
Yeah, I lost my dad August 28th, 1988. I wasn't incarcerated, but I want to tell you, that was I'm going to say right now, that's the hardest day of my life. My dad went out fishing in the morning, had a massive heart attack and died. I had to go identify him at the morgue because my mom was sick with cancer and died another 9 months later. So I know about that stuff, but that's nature. That just happens. It's not something but this thing here, you can't get that back. So did you get to attend your dad's funeral? Did you get any kind of relief on that? Or did you just have to stay in jail and deal with it later when you got out?
No, just stayed there and dealt with it later. Yeah.
How incredibly cruel.
The whole thing felt very much like a production line to me. And once you were put on the conveyor belt, there's no getting off. And yeah.
And I'd like to add to, this is not about our nephew Noah, but a couple of things about that is within 12 hours of what happened to him, our attorneys had gotten a message from the DOJ of condolences, which is interesting because I hadn't really said anything about it. We don't share the same last name. But at sentencing, the prosecutor made it very personal. And she said in front of the court that what he did is the reason why officers are killed in the line of duty. That was a direct shot at us.
That is, I mean, I keep thinking that it can't get any worse, and then you tell me something like that. And you know, our show, you know, Mouthwash, we got a silly name, and you know, we got the tinfoil hat, and usually we don't get this, you know, this way about stuff, but you know, we have to cover all the issues and all the things, and I imagine that I can't imagine going through this. Like I said, you know, this part of that list of things that are going on, and the fact that you had health issues because of it, I just don't think that's the way our justice system is supposed to work. That's injustice system. Lucy, what do you? I want to hear a little bit more from you.
So, and I don't mean this to sound judgy. So I have 10 children, so I can sometimes sound really mean and judgy, and everything that I'm going to say is just straight from the heart and with the best intent possible. You talked about the conveyor belt. That prosecutor is looking for political position sometime in the future, and you're part of a percentage that will either prove or disprove their deserve level, whether or not they deserve. You know, how many people did they put away? We talk a lot about qualified immunity and ending qualified immunity because of the actions of former officers like Chase Winkle, because it is so egregious, because, you know, citizens should be able to do that. But I think at the core, what we're actually fighting is the societal things that John mentioned. You know, we were under a Biden presidency. They were looking for ways to be tough on crime. You're in a red state. They had to offer up somebody to, you know, the masses to be the fall guy. And that ended up being you. So one of the things that I would like to say to any young people that are listening is that when you go into something like law enforcement, you're not going into, you know, Mayberry, right? You're not going in there to serve the public. You are not a public servant. You're a law enforcement officer. And ever since we changed from that sort of, you know, community serving to, you know, revenue generation from every step of the way, when somebody gets arrested, that supports the jobs of about 18 different people, you know, from the police officer that arrests them to the gal that's the secretary at the front, you know, whoever is, you know, processing the fingerprints. And we have private prisons here in the state of Indiana, where we literally guarantee occupancy, just like you would guarantee occupancy of a hotel. And it's so much easier on the people that are jailing you, that are keeping you, you know, a prisoner. It's so much easier to have law-abiding citizens like yourself be the one in there, you know, as opposed to the violent psychopaths. So I want to encourage anyone who is considering a career in law enforcement or in the military, don't. You're going to be fed into a grinder. All the sacrifice that you make is just insignificant compared to what they can do to you. I mean, Joe, you could have been an electrician and had, you know, a wonderful life and helped people in a different way, keeping electricity on in their houses, but you made the sacrifice completely selfless to go in and help your community. And even though you did all these wonderful things, nobody cared. You just became a political pawn. And for our young people who think that they should go in there and get the GI Bill because they're going to get their, you know, their college paid for later, I'm telling you, it's not worth it. It is not worth it. Not only are you putting your life on the line, but you're literally a pawn on a chessboard. If you've ever played the game Risk, you are literally being put out there as cannon fodder because and this is a little bit of the conspiracy theory, but this is actually investigative journalism. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, JP Morgan Chase, the International Monetary Fund, Hitler, all of these wars are funded by the same people. They fund both sides. And so when you make the conscious decision to put yourself in there, you know, my heart just breaks for you, because I can see that you're a good person. I can see that you tried to do the right thing. And I can see that everything just got crammed down right on top of your head. And there was nothing you could do to be crushed by the very system that you support. So if you don't want to be crushed by the system, young people, don't go work for the system. Boycott working for a system that says that it's okay to take nonviolent people, for example, who smoke weed. By the way, I don't smoke anything, but that's you know, irrelevant. you're willing to go out and grab people who've hurt no one, who've done nothing wrong to their fellow man, and you're willing to put another human in a cage. Just stop it.
Yeah.
But they
And
think
I'm sorry
differently
that
than I
happened to
do,
you.
Lucy. They need to be put away.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
What? Brad said that?
No,
That
but
was satire.
but no, Joe, Beth, like, where do you guys go from here? Like, I mean, how do you want to like kind of move forward and in a sense, clear your name, or in a way, I don't feel you have something to really clear anything at all. It's just you have this in your past now, and so, but I mean, like, yeah, how do you guys see that moving forward?
It is in the past, but it isn't. But my ultimate goal is to try and seek a presidential pardon. It's not going to fix things. It's not going to make the memories go away. It's not going to bring back my son's senior year in high school that I missed completely. But I think it's as close as I can get to making things right as possible.
We want his rights restored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So with this charge, you can't, what it limits, when you've got a felony on there, you got to, tell your employers or whatever. How much has that limited you in what you can do? Obviously, you're not a police officer anymore, and that seemed to be one of your lifelong dreams. Now, the good news is you did get your pension, from that, but that's like a consolation prize. Getting your eyes poked out, but what does that? And then Tiffany, I'll get you. What is your options on stuff to do? Because
the first question you asked them, what are the limitations that are now on your life?
Yeah, that's what I want. Thanks, Tiffany. I mean, thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs, obviously, that you can't get. We can't adopt children. You can't own a firearm. You can't, there's a lot of states you don't have voting rights in. Indiana you do, but there's a lot of states you don't have voting rights in. You're a second-class citizen. And yeah.
And I deal with that in the construction business. I see guys get hemmed up by stuff that deservedly they get arrested for, but then once they get in that conveyor belt system, it's hard to get out. You have to pay for an ankle bracelet. You got to pay your parole. You got to pay off. It's pay. And, you're already compromised going in. What do they think you're going to be perfect? Go ahead, Tiffany.
I was reading the DOJ thing. And so based on, I guess my question is, what were you supposed to do differently if an incident occurs and you get the paperwork that they've done, or what were you supposed to do with the paperwork?
The crux of that for them was to, devote more time, spend more time looking at the video, spend more time reviewing it. Don't believe the officers. And I was raised, you trusted people in authority. I was born in 1970. I'm an old guy, and I trusted my officers, and all the other shifts that I had run previous to this, when I would end up disciplining somebody, not only was it something I noticed, but I also had their fellow officers, their fellow patrolmen come in and go, "Did you see that, Sarge? Because that was bad." I constantly had, and this was an orchestrated. There were people covering for them because they were childhood friends, all got hired at the same time, and because of Daddy, all got put on the same shift together, and it was a disaster.
Here's an interesting fact. Before Chase was hired at Muncie Police, he arrested him for domestic violence, and that charge just poof.
It's a lot of
So
that.
there was no motivation for him to cover for anybody, and I think that's what the DOJ was angling, but they had nothing there. That he certainly has his political views, but I mean, he believed in merit should count most in this line of work, especially. And
but from what I understand about like the police force and people working together, if you challenged like every bit of paperwork that came in front of you, then that prohibits that mutual trust from existing between officers, I guess, because at the end of the day, everybody is supposed to be their best at work. And you're like, I'm my best. You guys are on shift. You're out there patrolling. You're fighting crime, and if you give me something, I'm expecting that it's your best. And if you have to look behind everybody, that's, what I'm saying? It's kind of like, what, you don't trust me to do my job correctly, but I guess you couldn't trust them But
I give like an 87%, Tiffany. Like, I think that's adequate. You know,
What
you don't have to give it all.
the thing is, like he was saying, he was doing 62 different tasks, the job of 4 people. And I guess they kind of knew it's like, you know, there's no way he can look at all the cameras or look at all the body cam stuff. So
Just overwhelmed with tasks, with
Well,
duties.
and I think one of the things you hear from most police officers, I hate the paperwork. You know, and in your case, you really hate the paperwork because the paperwork did you in.
but in the
So-
Air
Even more
Force,
so.
military, you always say the devil's in the details.
Right. Well, it's like, you know, on our construction site, we're on a job site now that the company brags that they're more stringent than OSHA. In fact, last Thursday, they called OSHA on themselves to come out and do a checkup. So I'm like, okay, that's, yeah.
What a nerd.
Yeah, I
God.
know. So, you know, but we're
Oh,
out there,
don't do
we're
that.
trying to actually build, you know, we have to build this stuff. I get the safety thing, I get it. But for the love of Pete, sometimes the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater.
I would like to say something from the perspective of a citizen and say some things that I think the general public believe. And Joe, you are welcome, you and Beth both, to push back on me because I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it was in the movie Blade Runner. If you're not cop, you're little people. And then cops, police officers, people are inculcated and brainwashed with this idea that there's this thin blue line. So I think that there's this culture that that people would, you know, run amok and murder and smoke weed and do all these things if LEO didn't exist. I tend to believe more in the good nature of people. And, you know, if heroin were made legal tomorrow, I'm not taking it. And I wouldn't have taken it whether it's legal or illegal. So I think that there's this oppositional culture that the cops are pitted against the citizens. I mean, we all see that. I think we can all agree on that. So then the question is, you know, what do we do about that?
But I remember
I don't-
Officer Friendly.
Well, we had
Officer
peace
friendly.
officers. I was born in 71, so, you know, I'm your age, Joe. And, you know, when I was growing up, we looked forward to the police, you know, to Officer Friendly, you know, coming and, you know, they
Yeah.
always brought us, you know, like candy or something. It
We
was
did.
really
We were running
exciting.
from the police. I'm sorry.
Well, we knew, you know, we knew
We could
that
get him to
the-
turn on the lights. Oh,
Yeah, that was a
that's
safe
it.
person.
They were
That was
chasing
awesome.
us.
But when you have
Yeah, I
somebody,
used to do,
and I'm,
no, go ahead. Sorry.
you know, you did that with the kids.
Yeah, I used to do Officer Friendly with preschool kids and would have one
Oh,
of the
man.
units come up so you can meet the horse and meet the police dog and stuff like
Yo,
that.
I'm
But
sure you
no,
made,
there
like,
there are
26 days.
officers who get badge heavy and, you know, view the whole world as, you know, you are or you're not, you know, and
The
that's
thing I've seen that's horrifying,
people are
and you've
people. You
probably
got to treat
seen
them the
this
right way.
too. What they call them First Amendment audits on YouTube. So you get people, sometimes they're attorneys, you know, law students, sometimes they're not. Yeah, Jennifer, the police were known as the good guys, but now they're not police officers. They're not peace officers. They're LEO. And so every stupid thing that some politician writes down on a piece of paper and gets passed to make a name for themselves becomes another burden of police work. And again, it just pits citizens against police because instead of being out there, you know, working on murders and rapes, they've got to be by the side of the road with the hairdryer pointed at you so that they can revenue. And that's become more important than anything else is the revenue. So, you know, I have all kinds of ideas of, you know, how to fix this. But until we replace the culture that Chase grew up under. So I was talking about the First Amendment audit. So you get people like me that are like, you know, I don't answer questions. I don't answer questions. You know, we're just trying to get through this without violating our own Fifth Amendment rights by talking or allowing the police to violate our, you know, first or fourth. And then you have people like Chase that grew up in a home where I'm sure all he heard was his dad and maybe the other kids, since they were all childhood friends, maybe they hung out with Chase's dad too. And they just heard how deplorable, and if you're not cop, you're little people, and we're the thin blue line that keeps from society from, you know, exploding into anarchy. But as I was watching those First Amendment videos, they showed this cop that, like Chase, had been kicked out of 3 or 4 different forces because he was, you know, egregiously badge heavy, beating people up. He started a company that would provide continuing education to police officers about how they legally interact with citizens. And this guy is up on stage and he is just, I did this and I slammed him this way. And I'm like, no wonder our police are doing this to people because they've just been given a role model. This guy that has this company that's making a couple $1 million a year, he's being paid by police departments all over. And he's brainwashing everybody to think that the coolest thing to do is to slam a citizen's face into the ground, just like Chase did. So I think that, Joe, I know that this is like the worst thing that's ever happened in your life. But, I really believe that getting you out of that situation, especially with your pension intact, and this could be the best thing ever. Think about the next part of your life as this huge adventure, this force for good. Man, you've got that empathy that you could have never had unless you were on the other side of that wall. So I really wish you all the best.
I think he has a good point, because like with the level of corruption and what was going on, and if it's the chief's son, I mean, there was no, you couldn't have stayed there. You would have ended up leaving that job anyway. I mean, it was going to get bad. So I agree with Lucy. I mean, you have your whole life ahead of you. You've done your time. You've served your debt to society. You can be a motivation.
And fiat debt. His debt was as valid as the frickin' Federal Reserve notes. Completely
the little green rectangles.
Green rectangles. But the thing is that
taxation.
you served your time. Like, no one can say anything. You've done it. It is so behind you.
Yep. And so who have you reached out to other than the illustrious Mouthwash show about this situation? And I know that Beth had written a very well-written letter with the pictures and everything for a pardon for the president, but who have you reached out to that actually could get a hold of the president or could as a avenue towards that mission?
Go ahead.
Oh,
You say we've gone through the official whitehouse.gov channels and haven't heard anything back, and fired off more than a few letters that way, and slowly now, reaching out to politicians who might have some influence and some ability to help.
It's hard because Joe was released from prison. July was that 29th of last year, and in this whole ordeal, we have lost relationships with former colleagues, family members, and you kind of you feel very alone. And we were always told not to go public with any of this until probation is over, and so we're kind of at the start of this. I mean, we never imagined that we would be in this position, and it was terrifying. I don't think there's enough words to explain that.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine what you had to do as the mom and the wife, and keeping everything at home and keeping your chin up so that so the whole family didn't spiral. Beth, you must be incredibly strong.
Well, and that's what I noticed.
Wasn't easy.
Yeah, that's what I noticed about Beth and her concern about this issue. Really, she didn't serve time, but her concern was for her husband, because she saw firsthand. What's that?
She served time too. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, but not,
process. Her husband being gone for 11 months, losing friends, losing income, worried about him not getting hurt. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't have a small heart attack too. I mean, it's just as stressful.
Yeah, I think sometimes everybody worries about the cancer patient, but they don't really not as concerned with the caregiver. And what I noticed when I first talked to Joe and Beth was her concern, because she knew how much it hurt Joe, and that's an unselfish way to do things. And I think she would do anything to get this burden off of him. And after a good career, no offenses, no problems, all of a sudden get this to end it. It is just like, it's like stabbing you in the heart. And I know, hopefully we can figure out something. I mean, we know some politicians. It's going to take somebody that's got a little in to get a hold of the president's ear or whatever. But, I don't, they always pardon a bunch of people at the end of the presidency thing. Maybe we could get you in line for that or something different,
I think he's just doing what he wants nowadays. So
yeah, I'll get him on the phone. Hey, Trump,
yeah,
no, yeah, that's I got him on the email or
just
whatever.
Got to catch him at the right time.
But I do think it's kind of a double-edged sword. because of if falsifying police reports is a crime, then it's a double-edged sword, because it's like if you pardon somebody, then what are you saying? Are you saying that it's okay? Are you saying that the system or the processes need to be fixed? I think that there has to be a reason.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
just think he got railroaded. That's how you do.
But without saying the
It's a case
whole
by case
entire
thing.
system is jacked up, which probably is. But you know what I'm saying? Am I being clear?
Well,
No, I
think
think
that
you're looking at another way. You're looking at
there's a
another option.
distinction here because we don't have a justice system. We have a legal system. And the problem with the legal system is you only get as much legal system as you can afford. And clearly the money ran out before the justice was able to be served.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that we should focus on is, is there an opportunity for a GoFundMe? How do you get to somebody like President Trump, who has the power to recognize the injustice that was done? And how do you position that from a marketing standpoint of, okay, Trump, here's how you look good. If you did this for Joe, here's how the benefit would be to you. What is
Get
the
him a
public-
gift.
But it also opens the floodgate too. And I mean, I'm just, devil's advocate here. So to me, a pardon it would be like, this is what happened. It was outside of your control. These are the other circumstances that went into it. We believe in the justice system, but this is a case in point where, there's too much going on and you were not the person to put the lid on the corruption, because the people higher than you didn't care and they knew too. So you know what I'm saying? So I don't know what your letter says, Beth, but I see here that you are truly your husband's advocate. And
Oh yeah, there's no doubt.
I would love to read that letter. I would love to read kind of how
is that okay if I share that letter?
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
by all means.
Yeah,
I will.
I'll try to put it on the Mouthwash page.
Trump does care about injustice, I believe, and he also, he wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. And so I can share with you from the Libertarian Party perspective, one of the things that we were I was pretty personally ambivalent on what happened with the situation, but there was a young man named Ross Ulbricht who spent 12 years in federal prison. His crime was basically he created what we know today as Facebook Marketplace. They called it the Silk Road. People were able to, buy and sell couches. They were able to do all kinds of things. Some things they did were criminal, and some things that
drugs,
they did
right?
not. Yep, and a lot of people bought and sold drugs on that on the website that he created. He also had Bitcoin, which in today's value would be about $2 billion worth of Bitcoin that the federal government took away from him. But the art of the deal here that came in is, and people are really mad at her for it. This is why I'm ambivalent. I'm like, wonderful. Ross ended up getting pardoned by President Trump. One of the ways that came about was his mother was a tireless advocate for her son's freedom. I met her in 2016. 10 years ago, she was fighting for her son immediately when it happened. And somehow, because the presidential race was so tight, and usually what happens with the Libertarian Party is either the Democrats or Republicans blame us either because somebody else won or because they lost, because, we usually take up that 5 to 10% in between. So Angela McArdle, who was our previous chair of the Libertarian Party on the national level, she really believed in Ross. And so she invited, and this made everybody in the Libertarian Party so mad, like they were ready to, just go at each other's throats. She invited President Trump, Robert Kennedy, and Joe Biden. She invited them all to our national convention. Like, how the heck would you have a Republican come speak at our national convention? Obviously, it gave us a lot of publicity. Robert Kennedy came and spoke. And that's when the deal was kind of made where Robert Kennedy dropped out of the race. And Angela said that and this is why all the libertarians were mad at her, because she said to Trump, hey, look, I will personally get as many libertarians to vote for you as I can. She held fundraisers that actually benefited Trump if he agreed to free Ross Ulbricht and to pardon him. And one of the very first things that Trump did is he held up his end of the bargain. So it was a deal that made sense to him, and he followed through on his part of it. And Ross is now free. He's now 40 years old and spent 12 years in federal prison. And now he's pardoned.
So, it does seem like those are the type of things that he, you always hear these stories about,
gifts.
he'll do those little
So
things
how
like
can
that.
your situation, what is there something about your situation that could be used to show and put more police and voters behind what Trump is trying to do? Now, I know he's, not going to have another term, but there's somebody that's going to be his heir apparent, maybe JD Vance, who
I
seems
got
like
his
a
number 2.
down to
Let me get
guy.
him on the horn. Hey, JD, what's up? No,
But
Well, hey, but honestly, I think that this is a challenge for us. Let's see what Mouthwash can do. So, I mean, it's like, hey, you three and me, and me. I got some dumb luck sometimes. I'll fall into something, and and you think about our show, we'll have a topic 2, 3, 4 weeks out, and the day of it, it'll blow up, and then we'll look like we're like these geniuses, and we're just falling onto stuff. So you just never know if we might.
you know why, John? It's because whatever the adversary means for evil, God will work it to the good. Whatever comes against you when you are in his divine will, it may look like everything is lost, and then God comes in with a miracle. And so as long as you're in his will, I can't even imagine what he'll do with you, with your experience and your empathy and your story, and how that's going to impact our society for good.
Yeah. And I think, Lucy, you're onto something. I mean, I can see Joe doing some training for people to, because he's got a ton of experience. There is no reason for this experience to just go off and ride off in the sunset. I know you want to go with your grandkids and do all, but no, dude, you still got stuff to do.
How do we dismantle this system so that
let's get it.
Beth, what were you going to say?
I'd like to add that while he served time in West Virginia, so 6 hours away from us, and he met a lot of people that were similarly railroaded as him. And I know how isolated we felt. My kids felt that. Our kids felt that. And I don't know how. I don't know what it would look like. But I would like to rally support for people across this country that signed their name on the dotted line. They were willing to take a bullet for anybody. I know he was, even for the officers that were lying on their reports. I feel like this could be something that would rally the law enforcement community and those that care a lot about restoration of our actual legal system, which should be a justice system. I don't ever want anybody else to feel like we did and be forgotten about.
I'm a veteran. I was in the Air Force, and there was a time in there where Black men on active duty, minorities on active duty, where they'd get the book thrown at them. They'd get court-martialed for something that could have been a letter of counseling. Mm-hmm. And I will meet them in my travels because I'll say, hey, are you getting any benefits from the government, or are you using the VA? And just they're so uncomfortable talking about their military service, talking about their discharge. They have so much angst against the system because they signed it, like you just said, they signed their name to die for their country, went through training, wore the uniform, got sideways with somebody, and they threw the book at them, and they were treated so much differently than their contemporaries. And you can just have the conversation, you can see it, and they're like, I don't want anything from the military. I don't want anything, nothing, but you can tell that they need it. They need the support. They need the mental health support. They need, they need whatever, they need the education. They need whatever they can get. They don't even have their GI Bill. So there are a lot of people who fall into this category of folks who've been just chewed up and spit out by the system and just put to the wayside. And I think that as you go through this, you will really find what your message is, and you will be able to rally a lot of people. Even in the corporate world, things happen. 7 years ago, I was not the person that you see right now, and God really helped me and got me where I am right now. So he will come, and it will happen. I promise.
I just thought it was you being on the Mouthwash show that did it all. So now that you're God, you had to give God all the credit. I want something bad.
That's my excuse, Tiff.
It's like,
what's my excuse? Apparently, I don't have one.
You got on the council. You got on the whatever you're on down there, the zoning board or whatever. Brad's chief librarian. What do I get? I get nothing.
I like that title, man. That's good.
Chief librarian.
Chief librarian.
Anyway, but we go through these things in life that people put us in, and they think it's going to break us.
Yes.
And they want to see us break. They want to see us fall. They want all these horrible things to happen because they're okay with it. And as long as we're hurting, they're okay. But when we get through it and it doesn't kill us, it doesn't hurt us, we're resilient. Joe, I'm watching.
Back.
We're talking about being Officer Smiley or whatever, or Officer Happy. You were glowing. You had that smile. Those memories, you know what I'm saying? You were really, really happy thinking about those things, and they should not be able to take those things away from you. You know, you wore the uniform, you served your community.
You know, we got about probably 50 viewers, live right now, and there'll be probably 1,000 or more after this. You never know. One of them might be that person that reaches out. So I think that this is the Google Docs thing. It looked like it didn't have a password on there. Is that correct, Beth? You can, if you click on this link, it'll take you to your letter. I'm hoping.
I may need to change the security permissions on that, but yeah.
Well, it said on there that you didn't need to have
I
it.
just opened it up and I got it open just fine.
Okay, yeah. You're on it, Beth. You are on it on that. And then of course, Tommy has to get a jab in to Brad. So here you go. You could call Tim Waltz, Brad, and you could get.
Oh man, no, I don't have Tim's number. You know.
What's he gonna pardon the?
Yeah,
never mind. I'm not gonna make fun of Tim Waltz on our
fastest
show.
road to Trump is through our governor, Braun, and so I don't know if it's worth a conversation with our governor. But
I didn't have one. I'm gonna send a message and see what's up. See if I can get some. But there's also we have a Senate.
Banks, to be honest. Yeah.
We have. Yeah, that might be one. He doesn't like us though because we had John Rust on our show, so I probably skipped that one.
I don't like him, but
Tim, Todd Young, we got a Senate thing coming up with Colin Yoder. He was actually helped with Trump's campaign, so I'm going to try that avenue with Colin Yoder.
I was in charge of getting him on the show. Yes.
Yeah, Tiffany. Yeah. Tiffany, you take Colin. I'll take Brian. Brad, you take Tim Waltz. Lucy, you get Andrew Horning on this thing.
There's something.
Call to action.
This is probably Captain Obvious that I'm going to say, but I'm just going to put it out there anyway because. You never know what kind of ideas are going to hit. But I was thinking about this in terms of like genealogy and seeing, what people are connected to what people. And I know you've probably done a lot of investigation in your life, Joe. So how can we, and this is obviously your task, but can you get that on your wall where you're like, okay, here's Trump. This is the guy we're trying to get to. And we know Mike Braun has, spoken to him personally. And then do the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And I would go on every press release that has anything to do with Trump and especially the state of Indiana and the FBI. And I would start, trying to see where all of those lines intersect and see who is it that can, shoot that message right up to the president.
And we can get witty reviews on it. And WART. WART is Weaponized Autistic Reporting Team.
Weaponized Autistic
Reporting Team. That's what WART is.
We're gonna love those guys.
So well, we had our monthly meeting up at the water park, and you could look at my TikTok. But they have that wave machine up there in Carmel that you can surf on, and it was quite fun to watch that activity go down.
Weaponized Autistic Reporting Team.
Yep, WART. Yep, that's what it is. And,
people with autism are also often brilliant and single-minded.
Isaac,
they're really good at what they do.
Yeah,
100% I'm on board, but weaponized, wow,
that's
I'm just telling you, we're not playing with this. So but that's not my term. That is Whitty's term. But I do work with the Hoosiers on the Spectrum. We are going to Beasley's Orchard next month. Come on out. It's fun. It's good. It's good to see somebody with ADHD that meets autism. I wear different matching shoes just to get the the OCD people. Just come out. These are mostly functioning adults, but Isaac is. I gave him a Winkles. We saw him Sunday. I gave him a little homework to do, and he pulled up the whole. Within 20 minutes, I had everything on my phone that I needed to know about Winkle and what was going on and the synopsis and all that. So we have resources. I just don't know how this is going to test our resources to see how far we can reach. But you know what? This is a great start. And oh yeah, one more, because your friend Kim Lavorno, she has got one more question with this. She said, "Oh, this is for Beth. Beth, did you or the kids ever feel threatened by the feds?"
Huh.
The feds love the police.
Well, her question was the feds or the police. So we'll just broaden it a little bit.
So
She says she's already working on Carlin. So Tiffany, get to Carlin before she does, and then we can brag. So,
Hold my beer.
yeah, hold my beer.
obviously
Before the show's over, Tiffany will have this done. Okay, go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, obviously we used to live in Muncie, of course, and on the day of his initial appearance in court, we were all admonished to not talk about this with anybody. Obviously, Muncie's not Indianapolis, and so every time I would go to the grocery store, I'd run into somebody who would try to get information out of me. And I'm not an anxious person, but I started having panic attacks, and we decided that it was best to move away. So we moved away, and a few months following our move here, I got a phone call from someone who had blocked their number, taunting me about Joe. I don't know who it was, but I think I will never forget the way that they talked and the sound of their voice. So if I hear it again, I'll know it. During the case, as we were wrapping things up before Joe agreed to make a plea deal, the DOJ was trying to implicate, I think that's what they were trying to do, to implicate myself and our kids because we did ride-alongs. Because this was information that Chase was giving them to try to turn a screw and make us afraid. And, by the time our kids were 13, 14, 15 years old, they would do ride-alongs. I would do ride-alongs. And every time we did that, we had a liability waiver that we signed. So you could document, you could prove when we were there. And so I think the fact that the DOJ brought that into the picture, they were kind of trying to do what it sounds like they did to Michael Flynn. And
yeah, they want to put they want you to know that they know you got kids.
Yes.
And then they just want to know the presence and see, this is what's wrong. This is what's wrong with this justice system. You get caught up in it and it just grinds you down. I'm supposed to do a prison visit out to Richmond, I think, with the prison ministry here coming up in September, waiting to get the paperwork. This is one of the things I really want to try to get involved with is I call it the criminal injustice system you hit the nail on the head. If you're rich, if you're OJ Simpson, you got a bunch of money, you can get out a lot of stuff. If you don't, you get what they give you. You don't have a choice. I know that you're not the only folks that are like this, but now that this is sort of a little bit in the rearview mirror. Yeah, I heard you say, well, we don't want others to go through this. And I definitely see, Lucy's point of you could be a spokesman for something of this. There's something good has to come out of this. That silver lining has to get expanded. And, hopefully this is a start for it. Cause this is, as far as I know, this is the first time you've publicly spoken about this. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And you've done a great job. See how relaxed our Mouthwash show is here. We're not like, we're not like Bill Maher or anybody. We're just like, keeping it real. So we're going to wind it up here, and everybody's got homework. Everybody, let's see who can get this done first.
Wait, who am I supposed to call?
Tim Waltz. No, you can call whoever you want. You could call. Yeah, Brad, you're a librarian. You're supposed to be creative. You got to go look in the book section of.
Is there like a reward? Like, is this a bet? Are we gonna bet on who wins?
I think there could be free cookies out of the deal. Yeah.
All right. Sweet. Yeah. All right.
John told you to go look in the book section of the library.
Yeah, look in the book section of the library where the books are. Where the books, where the information is.
Just
that's why I drive by libraries and don't go in, Tiffany. I just don't want to be any smarter than I am right now. That's it. I've reached my plateau of all that I can learn. So, Well, we try to, like I said, on our show, we try to keep it a little bit light. I mean, even though it got a little heavy there, but you know what? It's heavy. And, we just had an hour talk about it. You had 3 or 4 years of this stuff.
Yeah, just living that.
And it is all that. So
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Kind of like go along the lines of what John was saying. You've been living this for quite some time. Does it still affect you? Like at night, do you have nightmares?
No nightmares, but I finally came to terms with it actually when I was in prison, and finally started getting good sleep there, believe it or not. But yeah, it's psychologically impacted all of us. And at the time when it first happened, I kept telling Beth, it feels like there was like a burning piece of wood strapped to my back. You couldn't get away from it, and it didn't, it just kept burning. There's nothing you could do about it.
It's definitely fundamentally changed the way that all of us, including our 3 kids, view this country, this system. Like, if you can do a job like he did, with the reputation that he had, and still be put under like this and ruined, they can do it to you. They can do it to anybody. And I think people really need to embrace that this is what we have.
Yep. No, I don't think this is not uncommon. Like I said, it's fitting into our theme of lawfare. I mean, this is a different kind of it, but it is using the law to hurt a good person. Yes. And I think that should just be the litmus test. I live in Indianapolis. We had, my neighbor got killed by his own Jeep trying to break up a fight. And then here you are with this. To me, this is how the scale is. It's like, it's not, justice isn't blind. Justice is how it's subjective to who and what and how much money you have and the people. And like I said, I'm in construction. I see guys come in with ankle bracelets or have issues. I literally just talked to a guy tonight that was in prison for 12 years. He came out and worked with us. He was doing well. And then he just he just got, they had all the money and everything. He just said, heck with it. I'm not doing it anymore. He's just,
well, John, you talked about like the different levels. It's like they talk about the 2-tier system, or there's 2 tiers of justice. And I'm like, there's multiple, and it can depend on a number of factors all rolled into different things. Like, we're all on separate, and so it can happen to anybody. And Beth, like you said, like if it could happen to somebody with that kind of reputation, it can really happen to anyone. And it's a scary thought, and it's scary to have to live through that. So
and I think that's the part about Brad. That's the most important thing you've said in the 2 years I've known you. Is the scary part, because as an African American woman who grew up in a mainly brown town, I've known people who've had run-ins with the police, and I wasn't there, and people say different things. And, people are like, oh, you were probably doing this, or you were probably doing that, or this or that, or this or that. But when something like this can happen to a non-minority person, to your point, everybody should open their eyes, because you are not driving while black. You're not black. You know what I'm saying? This points to a major flaw in the system where you can fall into. And that's the point that people have to understand. This is not a racial thing. This is like, hey, this is a situation that can happen to anyone. And that's the rallying point, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I've seen firsthand some of my brown friends either get pulled over or whatever. And just the fact that they are, they're scared for their lives. I mean, literally scared that, wow, I didn't get shot. They think that if we get pulled over, I'm going to be shot or whatever. And then if you look at TikTok, you see these bad arrests where the people aren't cooperating and they get dragged out of their car and it turns into this big fiasco. Joe, from talking to you, I don't see you as that type of person. As you seem like the type of officer that would try to get this thing worked out. We're not going to escalate it.
doing
I'm going to calm it
paperwork.
down. What's
He was
that?
promoted to doing paperwork.
Yeah.
He was
darn
he had
paperwork.
worked his time on shift, and he was promoted to doing paperwork and overseeing people. And to me, that says a lot. You weren't one of the guys, writing one of the reports or hiding stuff, turning off your camera, stuff like that. You were the mid-level manager. And that's the thing that should get people's attention.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that nobody else got nicked up in this thing, and the fact that this was your first offense, the whole thing stinks. I know we've gone over that a couple times here. So let's wind it up with things. And Kim says she's working with other people. So Tiffany, TikTok, Kim's going to find, get to somebody before you do, and make this happen. But so we have some action items here. We have some action items. We're going to try to shake the tree. Whoever we know, whatever we know, we're going to try to get all the way out to Washington, D.C. and see what's up. Our lawmakers are out there right now doing some redistricting.
Doing what?
Yeah, they're out there for Joe. I mean, they're really doing it as the guise is they're just there for this redistricting. No, but they're all out there. They're not going to leave the steps of the Capitol until Joe gets his pardon. And that's how we're going to get it done. I'll get Andrew Ireland on the phone right now. I do have his number. And
he rolled over on it too, right? Because they're all on board for it now.
Yeah, we got to get rid of you Democrats. Come on.
Remember that a day or two ago when they were all like, "We don't need to redistrict.
We don't need no
federal government should stay out of our business."
Yeah, it is all good. All right, well, hey, we're not doing conspiracy tonight. I'm not, this story just did. Yeah, it was bad enough.
Beth, Joe, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, we do appreciate it, and as you can see, we're going to do what we can to get this thing going. I don't know, it's whatever our little things could do here, but you never know. You never know what can happen. So
God works in mysterious ways.
That's right. If God works through Mouthwash, it will be mysterious. I'll tell you that. So, all right. Well, and stick around backstage because we usually, debrief and all that. So don't just ghost us like Brad. Brad will give us an Irish goodbye and sometimes live.
No, I went to the bathroom already. So
okay, good. Good. So we're good. So let me make sure I get to the right thing here. Okay, here we go. Hey, peace out, everybody. We'll see you next week. Hey, I want to give you a teaser, but we have an assessor that was recently fired that knows a lot of stuff about how they worked us over on the assessments. Yeah, that's all I can tell you.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, hopefully I can get it all done in a week. Maybe. All right, everybody. See you. Thanks, Joe and Beth, for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll do our best to help you out.
Thank you.
Thank you.